Okay, let's bring him in, please. John Forslund. Happy summer, sir. How are you?
Good, Rod. How are you?
Very good. Johnny, where are you hanging your hat right now in the summertime?
Yeah, it's a Kraken hat, as you can see. But
nice.
I'm right now. Right now, I'm in Raleigh, and I'll be going to Seattle on the weekend. I'll be there for the 2 drafts. Kind of back and forth. We got a lot of balls in the air with our family, but I'll be back out again in August, and then full bore come September, and can't wait.
Boy, I got a lot of questions for you hockey-wise now that I think of Raleigh. And one of those is Dean Chanelth going to the Leafs. I want to get your take on that. But just about the Kraken and the draft. And Moose, would you mind grabbing the jersey if you don't mind? I think we need it. We got a Kraken jersey here that I feel like I need to show off.
Good.
Actually, let's look back for a second at these Stanley Cup playoffs, John, because you were in our living rooms for months watching the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I thought they're amazing. Some people said that they weren't as exciting, especially the way Tampa won their style. How did you feel about these Stanley Cup playoffs?
Well, a couple of different ways, Rod. Number one, I thought the hockey was better than because markets in the States, the fans came back, and in some places they came back in a big way. So in the second round, and game 1 at TD Garden was spectacular, and the fact that was the first game that they loosened up all the restrictions, allowed everybody back into the Garden, full house. It was more or less a celebration of the return of life, the return of social well-being, so to speak. The hockey was there. The hockey was center stage. That series evolved into a great one, I thought, physically, the 2 teams. It was a joy to cover. But then we went to Long Island, and it ratcheted up again because of the old barn in the last season at Nassau Coliseum. And again, they went from a vaccinated half of the Coliseum and an unvaccinated half of the Coliseum to everybody allowed in. And the roof came off, and it was absolutely spectacular. So then I experienced Vegas in the third round, Vegas and Montreal. That was 2 different worlds, and we were locked down again as media people. And that was difficult because there were no restrictions in Las Vegas, but we were locked down. Obviously, a lot of restrictions in Montreal. They never opened up the Bell Center, and that's just a shame. And we were locked down there. So that's how my experience was personally. I thought the hockey was very good. I understand what a lot of the fans are saying about the way Tampa plays, but hey, listen, they learned a couple of years ago when they were bounced out in that record-setting season in the first round and 4 straight by Columbus, how they needed to play, how they needed to bolster their lineup to win it all, and they do it in back-to-back fashion from the goal out. Absolutely. So good on them. They are worthy champions, and I can't wait for a normal season. I hope we get there.
Well, I'll tell you what, as I said to those that were complaining about the playoffs, I say hockey's like pizza to me, John. It's all good. Some's just better than others. And I loved it all.
That's right.
And you'll appreciate this. One, here's our Kraken jersey that's going. It's one of the prizes to the winners of our pool.
Perfect.
And Jennifer writes in from the Four Seasons. She says, I got to get a Kraken jersey for my boss now. The guy that owns the Four Seasons Sports Palace, dyed-in-the-wool Leafs fan. He's done with the Leafs. He's switching to the Kraken. And because he told me he couldn't cheer for the Golden Knights, which is my team. We couldn't cheer for the same team. He needs a rub. How much are you hearing of that, John? New fans that aren't just in Seattle. How much of that are you hearing?
A lot. And a lot even in this area. I think there's a built-in intrigue about how they've gone about their business so far. They want to be obviously successful, right? Everybody does, but they want to be a model franchise on and off the ice. And a lot of the things they've done so far off the ice, maybe with the exception of hiring me, that might be the only flaw so far. They've done a nice job reaching out to their community, reaching out to the NHL in general in terms of initiatives, diversity, inclusion. A lot of these things we talk about now, we're going into a new frontier. I really believe that. And sports will have its place. Sometimes there's some controversy attached to this right now, but I think over time, we're going to see what kind of leaders we're talking about. So they want to be that team. And because of that, I think it's a perfect market for it. I know the building will be spectacular. The practice rink is spectacular. And the fans will bring a passion that we see, I think, with the Seahawks and maybe back in the day with the Sonics when they were there. And I'm going way back with that. and that place that the fans have had their own identity. And I believe Kraken fans will. And I think it will extend all over. And in today's world, as you know, like this show, like how we consume anywhere and do it today. You don't have to be within striking distance of a power signal for a radio station, or satellite coordinates are needed, or you have to be in that market to see a game. It's point of view presentation. If you want to see the Kraken or the Maple Leafs or the Canadiens or the Edmonton Oilers, whoever it is, you can do it from wherever you are. And I think the Kraken will take advantage of that.
From, where did it go? Sergeant Pickles watching. He says, hello again from Seattle, Rod. And what's up, John? Hashtag that's Kraken hockey. Sergeant Pickles, 13, is
that's
watching
right.
from Seattle. Just what you were just saying. They're watching in Seattle here right now, talking about the Kraken. So how excited are you for the expansion draft? Because I remember, again, with my Golden Knights, long-suffering Golden Knights fan here, once they had that draft, we got a team, right? We got players. So
yeah.
How excited are the people in the organization in Seattle itself to have players after July, or on July 21st, John?
Well, the hockey people are sequestered, and good luck finding them or hearing from them. As you know, I have and have had a great personal relationship with Ron Francis going all the way back to Hartford. And so that's kind of different now because I work on the business side. He works on the hockey side. A lot of people say, well, gee, Ronnie did help a little bit, but it's a world. So I haven't spoken to Ron since maybe midway through the season. I know that he will keep everything close to the vest. He always has. So how does this affect everybody else? Here's my analogy. If you were a kid that around Christmas time that wanted to look at the presents and tried to guess what a package was, and maybe most kids were like this, you would do so. You would poke around a little bit. But when I was a kid, I was want to see it. I didn't want to know it. I wanted to really be surprised on Christmas Day. And as you know, hearkening back to the Golden Knights, it's all a big buildup, and then it finally happens. And when you finally see the names and you finally the thinking behind these selections, because as you know, Rod, they go in a lot of different ways. There are players who will be part of it day one. There are players who will be traded somewhere else or will play in the minors, or their prospects that go into each pick, and then the signings that follow and the trades that happen too. So because of that, I'm not wasting a lot of time with mock drafts or thinking too much. I'm going to wait and see what it is. Then the Kraken will have a roster, and away we go. And the fans will be completely jacked up. I'm excited as can be for this. And that's just the first step. And then in a day or two, it's the entry draft, and we have the first round where they have the second overall pick player, and then the ensuing draft. And we get to free agency in the off season, and we'll finally get to preseason and beyond, and that'll be great.
Well, buddy, I think only the old-time Western Hockey League guys like myself in the league from 93 to 2010 understand what a great hockey town that is. If you haven't been there, you wouldn't know. I've done many games out of the Key Arena. And what is the name of the new barn, A, and B? Have you been in there yet? And C, will it look anything like the old Key Arena? No?
The roof is there, so everything else is new and all tricked out, but they kept the iconic roof. It was my understanding also, and I have not been there yet, so I will tour it, I hope, this week and see it firsthand. But I've been involved in some meetings and planning, and I've seen the visuals as we moved along with this process, both not only the arena, Climate Pledge Arena, but also the practice facility, which players in the organization and the community with 3 rinks. It's going to be the focal point of the youth hockey in Seattle, again, kind of dovetailing what's already in place. That's the beauty of this. I think there's a lot of newness attached, obviously, as an expansion franchise, but you're right. You're going to an area where there is hockey tradition, where there are hockey fans, tremendous junior hockey, tremendous youth hockey. Many players from that area have matriculated to the National Hockey League. So it's not like coming here. When we came here in 97, territory, and there were a lot of people who didn't even understand why the Carolina Hurricanes were attempting this relocation from Hartford. But once the team was here, once the people got in the building, once they got to experience the Stanley Cup playoffs, the magic was there. The same thing will happen here because, as you know, once you see a game live, you're hooked. And some of the best fans I encountered in Raleigh, Rod, were the ones that had no clue about hockey. They were the ones that became the most addicted to the sport. I think the same thing will happen.
Absolutely. John Forslund with us, the TV voice of the Seattle Kraken. So a couple of somewhat personal questions. Dean Chenault going from the Hurricanes to the Leafs. I just want your take on that. 2007, I remember Dean Chenault saying to me, and you know how he talks, everybody's got a blog nowadays, Roddy. And
with that voice.
Yeah,
he's got
right.
that pitch to his voice. Right.
And now what I say is everybody's got a podcast nowadays, but I'll never forget Dean Cheney saying back, everybody's got a blog nowadays, Roddy. Were you surprised at that move, especially with Rod Brindamore, with what's rolling with the Canes?
Yeah, in a couple of ways. I'll try to explain it the best I can. First of all, Dino and I go back to Springfield when he was an Islander draft choice in the late 80s. And it was great to kind of come all the way around and work with him again for those years that I was, his first 2 years as a Hurricane. And I was there for, as you know, the first one and then 3/4 of the second one. And then we paused and then everything blew up and I went away. With him, I can't speak to his situation. I can only speak to what I saw from the outside. He did a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job with the defense. He did a great job individually with Dougie Hamilton. Okay, when Dougie Hamilton came here, as you know, he was still an enigma to many. There was a lot of stuff said about him, both from Calgary and from Boston. But Dean did his homework around the league with other guys who had coached him, and then decided to take his own approach, and it really worked. I think he tapped into his skill set. He tapped into his mindset. I know he did a remarkable job, and he did a great job with their penalty killing here, as you know, among the elite in the NHL over the last few seasons. So what puzzles me is that there was a lot of conjecture surrounding Brindamore's contract. And I went down this road individually with the owner, Tom Dundon, so I can speak to it. There isn't an easy negotiation, and mine really wasn't a negotiation. It was a totally different scene. But there isn't anything easy about anything that happens with this group. And you have to respect what they've been able to do. Now, since Dundon bought the team, they've had the greatest success they've had maybe ever in terms of the next to the next, because it's been a lot of one and done, win the cup, not make the playoffs, make the conference finals, not make the playoffs for 10 years. There's been some great moments in Raleigh. There have been some moments that are a little sketchy. So I want to say that at the front of it. But then when you look at what happened with Brindamore, I feel he should have been signed, sealed, and delivered during the season and extended at some point. And right after the playoffs, he should have been. But there was this delay, and then there was things said about maybe him moving on and maybe going to Seattle. Anyway, it worked out for him. He tried to secure his staff the best he could, and he did. And I thought Dean was part of it. Then all of a sudden, Dean left. So I think things broke down here. This is my opinion, nobody else's. He must have had an issue with what he was offered. So good for him. He's a great coach. He's gone to a big market, big profile team. He'll do a wonderful job there taking over in Dave Hackstall's spot, who's now the head coach of Seattle. So, good for him. And, he's a lifer in this game, going all the way back to his dad, just a great family and a great human being. I'm happy for him.
I am too. And that was a highly, highly, highly coveted job with the Leafs. Highly. And I mean, we've been around the block, you and I, a few times. And so nothing should surprise us anymore. So when I saw Dean get hired by the Leafs, I was happy. And I'm like, who knows what happened in Carolina? Life moves on. And speaking of all that, I'll wind this up here, John. When the first time you were on my show, you know what a wonderful world the hockey community is. They're all like, John Forslund. I was with him in the New York days. I was with him in the Springfield days. Where did you where did it start? Just take me through the road here in the 2 minutes that we have left for John Forslund that's ended up in Seattle.
Okay, so it started when I was 10 years old when I heard Dan Kelly call Bobby Orr's goal. The Bruins won the Cup in 1970. I, like so many kids in New England, got hooked. So I got hooked not on the game. Yes, the game, no question about it, but the cadence of his call. So I started just being a closet announcer as a hobby in the tape recorder and so on. Went through college, didn't go to school for this, but was given some advice after taking one course that I could pursue it someday if I ever got a chance. I was given a chance in the minor leagues by a guy named who's the owner of the Springfield Indians. He's a player agent today. He's my agent today, as a matter of fact. Anyway, he hired me in 1984. I worked there for 7 years. I was lucky enough to go to Hartford. And then Jimmy Rutherford gave me a chance when they bought the team to become the full-time television announcer in 1990. And I moved here with Carolina in 97. And then the rest is history here, 23 years. And then the contract broke down. Then I was lucky enough to have it presented to me, which I'm really grateful for, because as an announcer, who gets a second chance to do something like this? And in and around all of this national work, lucky to be part of ESPN's coverage back in the day in the United States, the NHL on NBC since 2011, and now hopefully, moving forward with one of the national packages. I hope to. If not, I'm good, because I have this journey ahead of me and this next part of my career, which I'm blessed. I am blessed, Rod, to get this chance to be the voice of the Kraken, no doubt.
Well, I'll tell you, I really, really, really enjoy watching your games, and
thanks.
You'll be the one reason I cheer for the Kraken, but not against the Vegas Golden Knights this year. There seems to be a rivalry already. Okay. I'm feeling that. Are you feeling between those two teams?
Yeah, there'll be a rivalry with them because of what they did and all they hear about in Seattle. Going to win the cup in the first year and do better than Vegas, because that bar is really high, right? So they have to win the cup in the first season. But how about the rivalry with Vancouver? Hopefully we get everything straightened out border-wise and we get, able to get things going on a normal 82-game schedule in that division. But yes, there'll be a lot of great rivalries that will be kindled, maybe. But there will be a lot of great things, and there will be. This is what I like, Rod. There will be 20 plus rivalries every time an individual goes back to wherever they came from. So whenever Dave Hackstall coaches against Toronto, most importantly, Philadelphia, that's great on him. His staff, the same thing. But every player, like the Golden Knights, the band of misfits, right? These players aren't necessarily cast aside, but there's a reason they are unprotected. And these guys don't forget that. So every time one of those players goes back to that city, we've got a big story on it. It'd really be exciting.
Sergeant Pickle says, glad to have you, John. I hope you become as big an icon for Seattle as the late, great Dave Niehaus. So that's from Sergeant Pickles. And that Vancouver-Seattle rivalry, I think they're going to have the ambulance circling the rinks in both locations. I'm serious, yes. John. Yes. From the Vancouver side, that's what I'm hearing from Vancouver. I don't know what it's going to be like in Seattle, but I'm sure they'll match it. But anyways, they're telling me I got to run. Always great. Enjoy the rest of the summer, my man. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Rod. Keep up the great work. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, buddy. The television voice of the Seattle Kraken. Let's get Kraken. John Forslund joining us from Raleigh, North Carolina.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.